Where does it say?
I think we're live now.
This is live now?
Yes, I think someone pressed the start button, but sure, look, we'll just wait for people to come in.
Okay, that's okay.
4 minutes, is it? Yeah.
Bara, are you logged twice? Because I feel there's another Bara logged, and it may have.
That's probably Dr. Choi, is it?
Yeah.
It might be Dr.
Yes, I'm coming.
Choi.
Yes, I'm coming.
Hello.
Yes,
Can
hello.
you please? Hello, great to see you. You have my name actually on the screen. Can you rename yourself, please? So there's a function when you click next to the name more, it should allow you to rename yourself.
Chenny. One moment, please.
Yeah. Hello.
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 Yes.
Hi.
Can you please say your name again so that I make sure I pronounce your name correctly?
Okay, my name's Chenny. Chenny.
Cheney.
Choi.
Cheney
Yes.
Choi. Cheney
Yes.
Choi.
Cheney Choi.
Choi.
However, I'm still seeing your name, Bara.
Yes, Dr. Choi, can you try to rename yourself? I think when you, I can't do it for you. So next to my name, actually, because you're logged in under my name, there's a more button. And when you click it, it should say rename. And could you put your name there?
I'll do it for you now. I can just do that.
Oh, you are able to do it? Okay.
Good morning, Kraken.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Kraken.
Hello. Yeah. So I think you renamed, no, you renamed the right one. Okay.
Cheney Choi, yeah.
Okay, so we're good to go. Sorry about that. I didn't realize when I shared my link that it would happen.
Kraken, are you going to be on the panel?
No.
No. Okay. But he's here with us.
I can disappear.
Hi. Hello.
No, don't you stay there, sure.
Okay, we are there.
And I hope I will be, I hope the internet connection will be stable throughout the time. Just that the connection here in Ireland is very, very bad. So I apologize in advance if you sometimes can't hear me.
No, it's perfect. I can hear you clearly.
Yes, no, you're perfect, actually.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm good here. We're here. Good.
Will you tell us when we're starting? Is that?
Yeah, so we're just coming up to 11 o'clock now. So if you want to start the session.
Okay. So I'll let's start.
Yeah, so we're live.
Great. Welcome everyone. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. This is a session about education and inclusion with blockchain. I'm really happy to be joined today by a panel of international speakers. Just that you know, this session is hosted by the Enterprise Working Group, and my name is Bara Greblova. I'll be your host for today. If you have any questions for our panelists, there will be time at the end of the session to ask them. So please state your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of Zoom. It is my pleasure to welcome Professor Joyce O'Connor, who is joining us from Ireland. Professor O'Connor is the founding president and president emeritus of the National College of Ireland, and she's also the co-founder of BlockW. Joyce, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara, and good morning to all of you, our international audience, or should I say good afternoon and good evening, and I hope you're all keeping well. So a warm welcome to Blockchain Ireland Week and to this webinar, as Barbara said, on education and inclusion, hosted by the Enterprise Group. My name is Joyce O'Connor, and co-founder of BlockW and chair of the Blockchain Ireland Working Group on Education, Skills and Innovation. As Barbara said, my background is in education as the founding president of the National College of Ireland. And I'd say a little bit about BlockW because its mission totally mirrors what we're going to talk about today. It's a female-led organization whose mission is to create awareness about blockchain and to increase equity and diversity in the application and use of blockchain, and to foster inclusivity by helping provide pathways and access to education, training and skills around blockchain and other emerging technologies. To me, this is a really important and timely webinar, a call for action on education and inclusion. Our moderator, Barbara, and our keynote speakers, Professor David Lee, Dr. Cheney Choi, and Marguerite Legger, are passionate about this topic. We all believe that blockchain helps redefine problems, create solutions, and has the possibility of reinventing the future. But the question is, how can we ensure that all our citizens are involved and understand the possibilities and opportunities around blockchain and other emerging technologies? We need to address the issue of the digital divide, career development, upskilling, education, including micro-credentials. Of course, we also need to know what is the awareness of, knowledge of, and skills gap in relation to blockchain. And a small group, a subgroup of the Working Group on Education, Skills and Innovation is working here with the ESRI in Ireland and the CHASE project in Europe to understand these issues a little more and guide policy and investment. One size does not fit all. So we're honored today to have a moderator and speakers who are involved in this challenge of education and inclusion. And they will all give us an opportunity to hear, see, and learn from what is happening in Singapore, Asia, and in Europe. Over to our moderator, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for the opening remarks. And continuing on, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor David Lee from the Singapore University of Social Sciences. He is also teaching at the Shanghai University of Finance and Economics and at the National University of Singapore. And last but not least, he's the chairman of the board of the Global FinTech Institute that empowers professionals to leverage FinTech for growth and transformation. Professor Lee, it's a pleasure to have you here, and you can start sharing your screen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Professor Joyce O'Connor, Mr. Kraken Yu, Dr. Choi, and Ms. Leder. It's really a great pleasure to be here today, learning and sharing with a very esteemed and brilliant group of people. And what I'm trying to do today in the next 20 minutes with a few slides is to share with you a humble experience in Singapore, especially with the Singapore University of Social Sciences, of how we overcome some of these challenges of trying to bring inclusion as well as education to our students, as well as people in Asia. And we learned a lot from Europe, we learned a lot from America, we also learned a lot from China and Asia. So without further ado, let me first share with you some of the challenges that we had back in 2013-14, where I left the finance world and went back to academic full-time. One of the reasons that I did that was because I couldn't really understand what was going on in the world. I see the rich getting richer a lot faster, even in 2013-14, and I see the poor with the income going up, but they could never catch up with the asset inflation. And I started asking questions as a finance professional, how I could do something to help or to bring awareness to what the world is changing into. And I didn't have any clue. So I want to spend some time doing research in the university. So I went back to the university full time. And that was where I started the journey of looking into revamping the entire syllabus for the finance department of Singapore University of Social Sciences. But I started my journey in the Sim Kee-boon Institute of Finance and Economics, and I was very blessed to have the support of the management and the chairman and the universities from the Singapore Management Universities. The first thing we realized was that the KPI for the universities, especially for the professors, are very focused. They are very narrow in the area of publishing in top journals, in very narrow areas, and not necessarily in some sense to be applicable, especially to the problems that we have in Asia. And a lot of this research and publication that we had been doing have to do with what the tradition of the top tier journals that they have. So that was the first problem that we faced. And I was in the finance department in the business school, and the staff background came mainly from the traditional finance background. And what I saw from the white paper of Satoshi Nakamoto in talking about Bitcoin was that I realized that it was really difficult to understand for everybody, whether they could be academic, whether they could be practitioner, or whether they could be just students or research students. And it's just a white paper. And it doesn't help that some people took advantage of that and tried to profit from the technology. And there were a lot of scams, there were a lot of speculation, and that didn't really help the mission of trying to bring awareness of the technology itself, which is blockchain, consensus, algorithm, cryptography, and so on. So in the business school, we have very few people in cryptography. We have very few people in distributed ledger technology, and we have very few people who really look into cybersecurity. And that was the main challenge that we faced, even though it was multidisciplinary. We have lawyers, we have accountants, we have marketing professionals among ourselves, but we just didn't, we have management information system experts, but just not in the area of cybersecurity, cryptography, distributed ledger technology. And that was the background. So what we did was that we have to learn from the industry, and we started asking people like Vitalik Buterin. At that time, Ethereum wasn't even having the network running yet. We had people like Zuko Wilcox, which run privacy coin like Zcash. We have Silver McCarley, who started Algorand network. We have a lot of people in the industry coming to give us a lot of talk, not just a simple talk, but 2 days, 3 days of lessons and programming, so that we could digest those materials. And all professors which we have recruited, and most of the professors that we recruited wasn't finance graduate. They were from AI, machine learning, deep learning, and they were from distributed ledger technology. They were from cryptography, privacy protection, and cybersecurity. So we brought a whole new multidisciplinary approach to the recruitment policy, and we started writing books, and we started looking into new journals. That was how we started. And then with that, we tried to revamp the syllabus that we have. And that was not an easy task, because we have the academic committee. Usually in the universities, you try to change the syllabus. It takes about 2 to 3 years to do that. And you really have to have the support of the senior management, the academic council, as well as the international advisory. And maybe I share a little bit about the difference between the developed markets and as well as the emerging market and some of the differences that we encountered and the challenges that we had. And in the developed markets, we have a lot of regulation, even though there are a lot of innovation, but we see a lot of incumbents holding on to their position, and that doesn't help because the regulators' KPI a lot of times have to do with job creation and retaining the existing job market. And if you have too fast a disruption, it's not going to help. So the regulators are a lot more conservative to try to maintain the status quo. And as educator, we try to bring awareness about balancing innovation with disruption, so as to ensure that we do not have a situation where traditional institutions or the incumbents closing down too quickly and job losses being too quickly. So there is a very important awareness that we have to bring across to developed markets, especially financial centers like Hong Kong, Singapore, and of course in Shanghai and Shenzhen in Asia. Of course, there's also New York and London and so on. And the biggest challenge is always about mindset change. And because we can see that government are always building digital infrastructure. But sometimes the digital infrastructure doesn't bring us to inclusion, but exclusion. And sometimes it promotes rent-seeking behavior, not intentionally, but because of the setup of the legacy issues that we have in the software, in the way that we deal with problems, in the way we deal with speculation, in the way we deal with scams and so on. And a lot of these are now being challenged by COVID-19 because a lot of people in the administration block never realized that they have to conduct meetings via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Suddenly they realize that they need to have a mindset change because all meetings are supposed to be face-to-face, not on a virtual space. But that has brought a lot of awareness and accelerated the changes. So the bottleneck and the barrier that we face, which is mindset change, has actually been brought down because of COVID. If there's anything that came out really good about COVID-19, of course, there are a lot of things bad about them, is that there's a mindset change towards the cyber space that we are talking about today. So, and regulators start to realize that regulation should never lag behind technology, but also that it should never fund run technology. So you should never have regulation to immediately kill any innovation initiative. And I think COVID has brought that to the front and the awareness, and regulators are beginning to change from Asia, especially in Singapore. We had the sandbox. We were the first to have the sandbox. We have new licenses because it was difficult to change the traditional banks. Banks wasn't set up with the board of directors, with the shareholders' pressure to collaborate with each other. So their main objective is to ensure to have high margin, to have more profits, to have growth, and they're not geared towards collaboration among the banks, and certainly not for open banking or data sharing. So regulators have no choice but to come up with new licenses like digital bank licenses. And with that, hopefully banks will share ATMs, and hopefully banks will share e-wallets, and banks will share the data with privacy protection, which that never happened in Singapore. So with e-wallets and digital bank, things are changing. And also, tokenization is a very new term. Tokenizing products and services will require a whole new set of regulation. The old regulation of securities, the old regulations for debts cannot be tweaked for the token economy. So Singapore came out with the Omnibus Act to look into an entire new approach, and you can call it a new token law, to be totally different. And a lot of regulators were thinking about tweaking a little bit of the security law and hope that things will work and try to force, token into the security law. And a lot regulators in Asia find that doesn't really work. So they have to come up with new token laws. And the central bank come up with a lot of education initiative, a lot of grants, and a lot of initiatives and incentives as well. And they themselves actually started a lot of projects having open certs. In other words, having blockchain for all documents and all university certificates to be on the blockchain. And they started to have GATS, or all the trade financing trades, to be tokenized. And because Singapore trade is two times or more of our GDP, trade is a major component. So they have digital infrastructure to have trade and trade financing on blockchain. And therefore they have the trade trust, the GATS, and they have project moving to tokenize our fiat currency, and not only digitize it, but they tokenize, and they had invited at that time 5 years ago JP Morgan, R3, as well as other blockchain companies to build Ethereum private chain, to build Quorum, to build other blockchains that could deal with the digital currencies, and also to enhance the real-time gross settlement system, and also to see how they can do away clearing houses. And from that, they have stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now they're into stage commercialization stage, which is called the stage 6, but there's no stage 6. We call it commercialization stage. So that our sovereign wealth fund, Temasek, is funding the banks to build the digital infrastructure. And we could also see in Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, China working together of a bridge project to do cross-border, they call it multiple central bank digital currency, MCBDC, using distributed ledger technology. And that those are all very interesting initiatives. And it's all accelerated because of the lockdown. So now in Singapore, we are also dealing with decentralized identity so that we could have our vaccine passport. We could have our identity on the blockchain and share with our neighboring countries so that we can have bubble to travel. So blockchain is taking a center stage in now COVID-19 so that we can entice collaboration among different nations. You can view blockchain as a new form of trade agreement, a new form of digital trade agreement in the form of smart contracts. So in the old days, we talk about trade agreement. In the new economy, we are talking about smart contracts for all the nations to come along. And if you do not agree with the smart contract, you can always write your own trade agreement and tweak it a little bit, and whoever are interested can always join your trade agreement. And that is a new approach. And in the developing markets, it's even more interesting. And because of time constraint, I will just give one example. The Project Bakun. Project Bakun is a central bank project by the National Bank of Cambodia. They use blockchain and tokenize their own currency, the real currency, and also tokenize the US dollar. So both real digital currency and US dollar are both e-currency approved by the central bank. And they are both on the blockchain using Hyperledger. So they found out that it is perfect for financial inclusion. And when we talk about financial inclusion, we tend to think that financial inclusion is about including people who are excluded from the system. But Cambodia has given us a new dimension to financial inclusion. And because of blockchain, and because of peer-to-peer settlement system, there's almost no counterparty risk. And because there's no counterparty risk, there's no reserve needed for settlement system or clearing houses. And because there's no reserve required, the cost of joining the network is very low. And because the cost of joining network is very low, you could include a lot of financial institutions which are not banks. You could include a lot of financial institutions which are startups, which are payments companies. And financial inclusion got on a new definition. It's not only about including people who are excluded, but also corporate inclusion. And only through corporate inclusion that you can grow and sustainably and also employ more people rather than empowering just the incumbents. So this is the new thinking in Asia now, using CBDC to not only serve the underserved, but also to do corporate inclusion. So when it comes to blockchain inclusion and education, I think in Asia, we are trying to refocus our research efforts. We are trying to create more internship and job opportunities for our students into startups and also into blockchain companies and fintech companies. And we're moving a lot more from offline jobs to online job opportunities because of the COVID. And surprisingly, if you look at Singapore, the blockchain industry is growing very well, and fintech companies as well, they're growing very well, and they're employing more and more people. So job creation is actually huge in Singapore in the online job market, especially in the blockchain area. And we have been trying to identify skills needed for the new economy and revise our syllabus for our undergraduate, our diploma for fintech, our master degree, and our PhD and our DBA, which is a Doctor of Business Administration. And after 5 years of hard work, I'm glad to announce that if you go onto the website of Singapore University of Social Sciences, we have an entire new syllabus for all our courses. And we have understood there are two very important trends for the fourth industrial revolution that we are focusing on, and that's what we are training our students to do. And I'll explain what that is. Now, as I mentioned, we have a lot of challenge in front of us. I don't want to give you the impression that what we have done is smooth sailing. This is the end of what we are doing. We are still facing a lot of hurdles. We are still having a lot of challenges. It is difficult, but I'm glad that it is not impossible, because the blockchain community are very helpful. It is not just the effort of the universities or just the effort of the regulators, but the whole community. I think there is a solidarity and there's a mission there. And I can sense that there are two parts to the crypto community. One part of them are always focusing on doing good. And as always in any industry, there's another part which are interested in short-term gains, speculation, scams, But we are, as education institution, we are not into those areas, and we hope that that will not flourish. So the mission we identify is to increase the marginal propensity to consume globally so that we can have sustainable growth. As I mentioned before, if the wealth is continued to concentrated in the have, and the have-nots are feeling that they are poorer by the day because of the quantitative easing, we are going to have instability, and that instability is going to affect everybody, and we will not have sustainable growth. We need to increase the marginal propensity to consume, and that's the key to increase the circular flow in income so that we can increase the growth. So the objective is to leverage on blockchain and other technologies, because blockchain cannot do everything. Blockchain can do some things and solve some issues. We still need A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and Q. A for AI, B for blockchain, C for cybersecurity, and cloud computing, D for data technology, and also digital devices, E for environmental friendly technology, F for financial inclusion tech, G for 5G and communication, and Q is quantum computing. And it's through all this technology, the convergence, we not only have to be inclusive in our business outlook, our education, we have to be inclusive in technology as well. so that blockchain can include other technology through new business models that serve the underserved. And the market is to understand, especially to understand the market that can leapfrog the traditional market being saddled by legacy issue, legacy regulation via blockchain technology. So to end, I would like to say that I'm optimistic. I would like to put out this challenge to everybody to say that there are two trends that we have identified, and if we can take advantage of these two trends, we will be very successful in sustainable growth going forward. The first trend is not only peer-to-peer communication, but decentralized peer-to-peer communication. That is important. We always hear about China war. We always hear about a lot of people are excluded because the data package is too expensive. But one that is distributed and decentralized, we can democratize communication as well to make broadband available to the 50% people which have no access in ASEAN to broadband, and 80% of the people, or 80% of 280 million in Indonesia has got no access to broadband. Decentralized or distributed ledger can help P2P communication for privacy protection and exchange of information. And that's key to it. And a lot of parents in Indonesia, they are saddled with debts because they subscribe to data package in order for their kids to be able to go to school online. And I think that's very sad. We need to have a distributed network for peer-to-peer communication to democratize some of this technology with satellite and mesh network. The second trend is not just purely about peer-to-peer exchange of information, but the peer-to-peer or point-to-point exchange of value. And that's what Satoshi Nakamoto has advocated in 2008 in his white paper. Now, a lot of people misunderstood that we are trying to get rid of trusted third party like licensed intermediaries, like banks, like an insurance company. I don't think that's the case. What we are saying here is that trusted third party cost is getting too high. And the fact that because it's too high, that even banks and insurance can't serve people that they want to serve. Banks and insurance company want new customer as well, but they can't do it. The regulatory cost is too high. The technology cost is too high. But now we have blockchain, we have distributed ledger network, and we have regulators who are working together to lower the trusted third party. But these trusted third party are not the old trusted third party. Banks are not the one with ATM. The banks in the future are not the banks with the branches. The future banks are just e-wallets. If you are a bank, you are just an e-wallet. You don't have a physical branch. You're just an e-wallet in the digital devices, whatever digital devices or whatever autonomous vehicle that you have. So China has it. China is going to make 1.4 billion people have autonomous devices, not necessarily autonomous vehicles, but autonomous devices. And don't be surprised that every device will be doing mining and every device will have token. So that is the future we're talking about, that everybody is an exchange where they can do point-to-point, peer-to-peer exchange. Everybody is a bank. You yourself will keep your own assets, and the trusted third party are those who will keep the private key for you in case I have dementia or in case there's an accident. They will keep the multi-signature for me. And it's all about distribution economics. It is all about the vision of the solidarity of trying to increase the marginal propensity to consume, to serve as many people as possible by including as many new business models as possible. And it's about subsidiarity to empower the neglected, the weak, and perhaps some of the despised, and also those who have not. I think only then that we can be able to have higher marginal propensity to consume and to ensure that nobody is hoarding any goods and services, that everybody universally can enjoy all these goods that we have produced. There's just no point hoarding the goods especially in this time of difficulties that we have. So blockchain technology can truly help to transform what used to be theology or idealism into practice through hopefully bringing awareness to everybody, to regulators, to practitioners, to our students, and to everybody who wants to be part of this community. And inclusive fintech, especially ethics, especially governance, are what we need to teach, and what we need to share our own experiences is by sharing that we can learn from each other. It's about DeFi, it's about security tokens, it's about non-fungible tokens, it's about stable coins, it's about ethics, it's about governance, it's about consumer protection, it's about cybersecurity. I think all these are very important, and with blockchain, I think we have some hope going forward. So with that, I end today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Professor Lee. I was so busy taking down notes because it was very insightful. Thank you so much. And I would like to move on and invite our next speaker, joining us from Hong Kong, Dr. Chai-Ning Choi. He's the president of Asia Blockchain Society and the chairman of International Digital Rights Alliance. He's also the CEO of Hong Kong Blockchain Assets Management Company. Dr. Choi, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Please, the floor is yours. We can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Lee. It's great to hear A, B, C, D, E, F, G plus Q, right? That's very interesting. So thank you for having me here today. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Today, I'm going to share my experience of blockchain technology, especially in Hong Kong. Today, I'm going to share 3 cases which we use the technology of blockchain to apply to the commercial application, how we can use the technology to improve the efficiency and lower the cost. Firstly, I just have a brief introduction of my background. I'm the president of Asia Blockchain Society, and I'm also the first book Bitcoin writer in Hong Kong. So in past few years, I'm dedicated to promote the blockchain technology, and we also given some public class and some educational courses to the public in Hong Kong. We just want more people to know about what is going on about the blockchain, and the blockchain technology is going to change our world. So we now should first to know more about it. And Asia Blockchain Society is a non-profit organization. We have organized some kind of like this web seminar or some conference in past few years, especially in Hong Kong, in China. Before I come to share my experience, I just want to point out that just like Professor Lee talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G plus Q, most of you may agree that we are going to enter a digital world. We are now transformed from a physical world to a digital world. And the AI, artificial intelligence, is going to change our life dramatically. And hopefully our life will getting much easier and better. And people, by using the AI or other technology, maybe make us feel happier in coming years. So when we're talking about the AI, we need the big data, which is help the AI to make the right decision, the best decision, and how we can make sure the data is correct and immutable And of course, we rely the technology of blockchain. So when we're talking about how we can blockchain change the world, because this is a very important technology to assist the AI, artificial intelligence, in our lives. So today I'm going to share 3 cases here in Hong Kong, how we can use the blockchain technology to the commercial applications here. The first case I'd like to share is we have hairy crab farming in Hong Kong. This is a new industry because everybody may think the hairy crabs can only be found in China, like in the Zhejiang province, a part in the middle part of China. But we can use the technology to farm the hairy crabs here in Hong Kong. There's a huge demand for China. Every year they consume millions, tens of millions of hairy crabs in China. So we have a lot of commercial values to do this project in Hong Kong. And what we're gonna do is we use the blockchain technologies to collect the data. We use the AI plus the blockchain to collect the data and put on the chain to record all the data in blockchain. And this will transform to a useful data. When we're talking about to transform the technologies, maybe we can assist other parts of the farming for the hairy crabs. And we can export our experience to other parts when it comes to start an industry for the hairy crab farming. Okay, and we also issue the token to circulate. We use the token economy when we have 1 million crabs in Hong Kong, 1 million hairy crabs in Hong Kong. We issue 1 million tokens, which is called hairy crab token, HCC, here to circulate. People can use it to trade in the crypto exchange, and they can give the token, which is 1 token represents 1 hairy crab. They can exchange from the token to the physical hairy crab. When we are in coming months in October, with the harvest season for the hairy crabs, they can exchange physically from token to hairy crab physically. So we can also make the token to have appreciation incoming, because when the hairy crab getting bigger, the value of the token will become more valuable, because right now we have some kind of discount, like the futures you can trade in the financial market. Now we can trade the token through our exchange. People can make some profits when they buy at the low and sell it at high prices. So this is the experience how we can issue a token with a physical asset. Like the physical asset is the hairy crab, and that's the example I would like to share. But just give a brief introduction of this. And there's a lot of applications other than this. We also have another platform called Trust Me. And this is the platform. We use the blockchain technologies to apply for the property valuations. And you know what? There's a lot of people may think about what we can do for the blockchain. And as the blockchain technology companies, there's a company called Trust Me here in Hong Kong. Actually, the Trust Me is a company in Hong Kong. They are doing the development of some what we call property valuations. They use the valuations to put the value, the data on the blockchain, and then they can do it quickly for the property to have some kind of valuation, and which is trust by the organization or by the people involved in the transactions. And here in Hong Kong, we also have technologies. We use the blockchain to create a platform, and the platform is driving an innovation of the business. They have some kind of called food safety, health care, and the legal financial service and real estate. There's some kind of technology application here. We use the technology to cooperate with the so-called property agent. There's a lot of property agents, they need to sign the contract when they make a deal. But we can use the blockchain technology to help them to sign the contract electronically, use the blockchain technology, and then make sure the data and everything, the information on that is immutable, and you can transfer or you can have a e-signature on that. And all these public records will, on the chain, you can keep it immutable. And there's also have the cooperation with the banks. Here is a bank in Hong Kong. They use the technology to cooperate with those fintech companies. They need to have a trade with the companies together. We have a trade services. They put all the data on the blockchain technology, on the point of the put the data on the blockchain to make sure the data is correctly recorded. And there's a lot of application here, but today, because I just want to have some quickly explain the application or just a brief introduction. We know there's many cases like in China, they also use the blockchain technology to have some kind of public policies. They use the blockchain to record the dates of birth, the record dates of birth, that marriage certificate, or some kind of commercial business registration by blockchain technologies. Incoming, I think there's a wide application for blockchain, especially when we're going to see people are accepting or entering the industries. More and more people in the past, they just know about the blockchain by Bitcoin or by some kind of cryptocurrency. But today, we see how blockchain technology can really apply in a commercial world and how can change the world quickly or tremendously. And we just have to go with the development of the blockchain to see how the world can be changed. And with the other technology like AI or the cloud computing or some kind of IoT, Internet of Things, all these technology we combine together to make our life much easier. And I'm just have some kind of this experience here in Hong Kong, and I like to share with you guys today. Today, maybe I have not well explained the details, but just have a brief introduction on this. So maybe to me, it's about time. And I'd like to thank you for having me here today to share my own experience here in Hong Kong. And I'd like to join this event with you guys. Hopefully I can learn some more things on you guys today. So yeah, thank you. That's my part. Thank you.
so much, Dr. Choi, for the insights and the use cases from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know we have some questions at the Q&A, but I would like to give the floor to Ms. Margarita Leder of the board member and the Education Working Group co-chair of the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications. Margarita, we're running a little bit of time, but you have your 10 minutes, so please, the floor is yours, and then we will answer the Q&A questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and the Enterprise Working Group for inviting me today. I'm really happy to be sharing the floor with such relevant experts in the field. And as Barbara explained, I've been chairing in the last 2.5 years the Education Working Group within INATBA. And a couple of months ago, we released our first paper, and I'd like to give you some details. The Education Working Group has been working for several years now on how we can make the access to blockchain, the market, and the education more accessible. The starting point is that technologies are always neutral, and technologies do not solve, each one technology doesn't solve all the problems that enterprise have, that organization have. We need to find specific technologies that solve specific problems, like specific problems, specific solutions, specific technology. But understanding this is a process, both for those decision makers that need to invest in a technology, like a board member of a company, the member of a decision-making team within an organization that has to decide if and how to implement blockchain and DLT technologies within the organization, as well as those who need to skill and reskill themselves as in the job market. We've been working with the European organizations who are selecting and defining the skills, as well as within the CHASE program, that's an Erasmus Plus program launched by the European Union. As INATBA, we are one of the members of the consortium, and we're trying to contribute in the blockchain skill strategy definition. What I'd like to discuss today is how we have envisioned our curriculum, because in our paper, we do not only discuss the status of the art, let's say, of the technology or the target that we'd like to reach, but we've also proposed one specific example of how we believe a curriculum, both for decision makers and professionals and for institutions and educational institutions and specific works. And I'd like to share my screen to show you some details, and you should be all seeing the screen right now. And perfect, thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to mention my fellow co-authors of the curriculum and the paper, including several professors, Professor Catarina Adam, Professor Donna Riddell, Dr. Gustavo Prieto, and other two members of the working group, Mr. Will Salzman and Ms. Chiara Ventura. This is a project we did together, and I thought it was really important to stress this out. It's a bit brief outline of what we were working on. As you see, the third chapter, that's the most important one in some aspects, is dedicated to the curriculum definition. And moving forward on this is how we structured it. So what we started from is that we wanted to have 3 targets. You see here we have institutions, we have businesses, and we have classical education. So all these are the 3 targets that we wanted to reach. And we wanted to define a curriculum that is working on different phases and on different levels for all of them. So as you see here on the top left, we have three different types of objective, like cognitive objectives. So there's an evaluating and creating, there's applying data analysis, and then remembering and understanding, right? So on this, these are the 3 main, say, learning strategy and learning objectives. But then the specific topics are defined in the list. And we have blockchain background, blockchain as a technology stack, and blockchain as a socioeconomic transactional infrastructure. That's because the title we have selected for our paper, and this was a topic of discussion, is blockchain education, a prerequisite for socioeconomic and technological advancement. We are in this market well beyond the early adopters. This is done. We have been doing this for the last 10 years, since launch of the first white paper until now. We have done a lot of work and a lot of practical applications. We heard about some of them from my colleagues a bit before. So it's now time to have a really concrete understanding on how we can move forward on this. And those who need to understand it are those who need to take decisions and those who need to work in the team that are supporting those decisions. May they be students, may they be professionals that after 30 years of experience, they want to reskill themselves. And this is how we have defined the three main categories. So we have blockchain background, like transactional trust and transactional journals, and blockchain history, like where are we coming from? Where did we start from? How have we evolved in the last 10 years? Like the blockchain we knew 10 years ago is not the same ecosystem we know today. What's the difference between DLT and permissionless blockchain? Like how can we understand which is the best technology for us, also based on the history that it's behind? And of course, it also gets on a really specific level of which technology you need for your business, like for your industry, that's different from other industries. The second, that's what the core, let's say, of the curriculum is working on the technology stack, infrastructure, services, protocol, programming, and technical implementation. This is a really interdisciplinary topic. The blockchain and implementation of blockchain are not islands where you can have the technicians on one side and the decision makers on another side and the business people on a third area. That's not how it works. If you want to take a decision, you need to have a good background of understanding on how the technology works technically. That doesn't mean that you need to start coding or that you need to start to practically implement the technology, but you need to know how it works. If you don't, you will be receiving really bad advices. And the risk of taking a big, to missing an opportunity, like missing a business opportunity, or exposing yourself to risk, it's becoming really high. So this is the most important thing. There's a synergy between the business level, technical level, and the operational level. Those who need to take a decision need to have full understanding of that. And that means that you need to understand how the protocol is working, which are the services, how is the infrastructure running, and how your programmers, your technical people are going to work on this. Because if you don't know this, then you could buy anything because you're not understanding it. So these first two blocks, the background and the technology stack, represent a key point. And if you go here, once again, you will see that this is divided for each category. Like for the businesses and for the classical institutions, it's divided on which type of classical institution. Is it law school? Is it business school? Is it a STEM, an engineering program? And for businesses, who are you? Are you a top-level decision maker? Are you a project manager? Are you in the technical team? And that's divided based on that. Same thing for institutions. And then we emphasize, and we dedicated a full subchapter to this, on the socioeconomic transactional infrastructure. Like there's a lot of evolution. We heard a lot about it from our first speaker today on how the market and society is evolving together. But this needs to be clear to all those working in this market. If you're implementing this technology within your organizations, that means that you're solving problems in a faster and easiest way, but you need to know, to understand which problem and what other solution you were using before that you're not going to use anymore. So you need to have business considerations, and you need to have economic consideration as well as legal ones. As you know, ENATBA is really committed to supporting regulators in understanding how we can have a better regulation, an accessible regulation that is allowing this market to grow, and our organizations, our companies, our third sector organizations, our startups to flourish and to also be able to solve problems faster. But this needs to be supported by a really good understanding of the legal considerations to take. Sometimes I still hear people telling me that, you know, this doesn't work, that's all a bubble and that's going to explode. Unfortunately for them, and really fortunately for us, we also see a really practical and concrete application. What's a smart contract? Some people think it's a contract. That's not right. You need to have really clear example on how it works so you can have a good understanding. And I like to close here the presentation of the curriculum, but I really would like to invite all of you to visit ENATBA's website. The paper is an open source paper, so it's available to all of you. And if there's any other question, I'm here until the end of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Margarita. It's always nice to hear about the paper, because I think the paper is very crucial for any educational institution or business or organization that want to bring the technology forward and want to incorporate the technology into their businesses. But maybe, Margarita, I would ask you a question which was asked in the Q&A, because I know your paper deals with it a little bit. So maybe I would ask you first in the last few minutes. Not everyone goes to university. Not everyone follows technical courses. For the technology to be inclusive, it should be accessible and taught from early ages, not only at the university level or business level. Is it planned for blockchain to be taught as part of the mandatory national education for kids? What do you think?
That's an interesting question, and we've been discussing a lot in our working group if to focus only from the, let's say, university bachelor level onwards, or also to focus on high schools, for example. We believe that STEM understanding is really important, and there's a really there's an underrepresentation of those subjects in the earlier career. Like the kids, the children start to deal with complex mathematics, with complex informatics and engineering, or really late in their learning experience. So I don't have a strategy for a national implementation of blockchain education within the various countries. But my recommendation is that we really should focus on how we can enhance this STEM understanding at an earlier age for kids, because there's several ways you can teach. There's not only the frontal way, and the let's say educational methodologies are different and may be applied to a different target, especially because the main point of our working group is to understand how we can shape an education, and is also supporting students and professionals to have an easier access to the job market, which we know is a struggle for many of us. And it's really important to create those strategies the earliest possible.
Thank you so much, Margarita, and thank you for answering the question. I apologize that we won't be able to have a longer discussion, but I felt it was important to actually let everyone share their experience from their own countries. And before I hand over to some closing remarks to Professor O'Connor, I would just like to thank you everyone for joining today. And please know that there's a follow-up session on the topic of DeFi for social and economic inclusion, moderated by the co-chair of the Enterprise Working Group. So thank you once again for being here with us, and I would hand over the last few words to Professor O'Connor.
Thank you very much, Barbara. This was such an exciting session. It didn't disappoint. We've just got a minute left, but in doing that, I'd like to thank a number of people. Sarah Watson for the production side. I see Kraken there who helped organize it, and thank you very much for bringing and helping to bring these people together. But to all of your speakers, to Professor David Lee, to Cheney Choi, and to Marguerite Leather, and of course to you, Barbara, who has made such an impact in this area. And I think you have left us with food for thought on so many levels. But not only food for thought, you've given us a pathway and understanding. There's books, there's specific references that we can get and their use cases, and that's really important. And I think what we will do after today is revisit what you've done, and our working groups are working on strategy and so on, and I think that we can really address some of those issues. It's been inspirational listening to you, because all of you have started from the beginning, looked at what's possible, but through hard work and collaboration. That came across really well. And also, I think the message is, it's not just blockchain, it is a technology stack. It's not just blockchain on its own. And Professor Lee, you mentioned the word mindset. It is about mindset. It is about change. It is about embracing the opportunities that are there. And there are so many. So thank you all so much again, and I hope we will keep in contact with you in the future and let you know how we're getting on. So thanks again. Bye now.